Hey, this is Laura Lee with Simplee DIY, and today I'm going to show you how to build this amazing slat headboard. It's a beginner-friendly project, and you don't need a ton of supplies, plus it's really easy to customize to whatever color or size you'd like. The first step in building the headboard is to build the frame. I'm going to build a queen size headboard, which is going to be 60 inches wide and 70 inches tall. I'm laying out my 1x2 by 6 inch boards on my garage floor as a visual. I've got 2 horizontal boards that will be the top and bottom of the headboard. I want the bottom board to be a couple of inches below the top of my mattress. So the height of my bottom board will be 44 inches from the top board. The top and bottom boards will be connected to 2 vertical boards that will also be the legs. Then I added a third board in between the top and the bottom boards to support the slats. This is what my frame will look like. To connect the boards together, I'm going to use pocket screws. The most popular pocket hole system is Craig Jig. They have a variety of options at different price points, which basically all do the same thing. Make these pocket holes. Once the holes are drilled, you can see they're drilled at an angle, which allows you to connect the 2 boards together and makes a really strong joint. Don't forget to add wood glue. It will give the joints additional strength. I put a little bit of glue in between the 2 boards, and now I'm going to screw them together using pocket hole screws. It's also important that the boards are straight and level before you screw them together. My table is not flat, so I had to add a piece of scrap wood underneath the joint to make sure my board stayed nice and level as I screwed them together. I will use the same technique to connect all the pieces of the frame together. Once they're all connected, I'll flip it over, and now I'm ready to add the slats. Whenever I'm using slats for anything, I always like to place my first slat in the middle and then work my way out. It helps to keep things symmetrical. I applied wood glue to the frame and then nailed the first slat to the frame with a nail gun. It was important for me to make sure my first board was nice and straight. I needed it to be straight because after it was secured, I used some scrap wood as spacers while I nailed the additional slats to the frame. If my first board was crooked, all of the slats would have been off. I repeated this process over and over again until I had all of the slats installed on the right side of the frame, and then I did the left side of the frame. It's also important to make sure that the top and the bottom of the slats are level. Here's a closer look of how I use the spacers. I had 3 different spacers that I used for each of the boards. Then I put the slat up against those spacers and then applied wood glue and then nailed the boards. After all the slats were attached, I added some wood filler to fill in all the nail holes. Then I used my sander to make it nice and smooth. A 220 grit sandpaper was perfect for this task. I also sanded all the edges to make sure everything was smooth before I stained. All my staining supplies ready to go: clean cloth, gloves, foam brushes, and the stain. I'm going to be using 2 different stains on the headboard. First, I will apply the Rust-Oleum white wash stain. This serves 2 purposes. The first is to eliminate the yellow color of the pine, and the second is to act as a pre-stain conditioner for the second stain. I'm using a foam brush to get into all the edges of the headboard. Then I use that same brush to stain the front of the boards, and then I'll finally wipe off the excess with a clean cloth. The second stain I'm using is Varathane stain, and it's in the color Kona. I like the Kona color on its own, but I think the combination of these 2 stains will give me the lighter stain color that I'm looking for this headboard. When using stain, it's always best to work in sections versus doing the whole project at once, because it's easier to control the color depth of the stain. It's always easier to go darker versus go lighter. The final step of this project is to add the finish. I'm going to use this Howard's Feed and Wax, which is one of my favorite finishes for stained wood. It looks great, it's easy to apply, and it smells good too. I am just going to put a little bit of wax on a clean cloth, and then I just wipe it on the wood. It's important to remember that as much as I love this wax, it looks great on stained wood, but I would never use it on painted wood. After applying the wax, I let it dry for a few hours, and then the headboard was good to go. And here are the results. I love how it turned out, and I would definitely do this project again.